to slow down in the midst of all kinds of crazy Christmas traditions and family times and all of that. Just to be the church family and to celebrate the birth of Christ, to remember what He's done, and to recognize what God is still doing in our midst. He's Emmanuel, He's God with us, and He's here in this room right now, and that's something worth celebrating. And so we have a whole service to celebrate Him. We're going to sing carols, which you're probably hearing in the mall and on the radio and in your car and different places. But these carols are more than just Christmassy songs that we listen to once a year. They're also worship songs. They're songs that declare truths about the glory of our God and the wonder of Him coming for us. And so our hope tonight is that you would join in these songs and sing them to God and declare truths about God and get lost just in who He is and the gift of being able to worship Him. And even as we begin with some of these carols, I wanted to read a passage out of the Christmas story that kind of gives context for all the things that we're going to be singing about. This is from Luke chapter 2. It's just the Christmas story. Verse 8, it says, "And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel, he said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Because today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger.' And suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, 'Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth, peace to those on whom His favor rests.'" Let's join with the angels and sing glory to our God. Tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go, tell it on the mountain. Side
Here on staff at ROCKHarbor, and if you are part of our ROCKHarbor family, we just want to say welcome. It's good to be together. If you are a friend, a guest, or just visiting, or you've had your arm twisted by someone to get you here tonight, we just want to say welcome. Tonight's just a night to be family, and so we are here. I know many of us have had busy days of gift wrapping and traffic, and probably some of us flights and just trying to get in town, and so we're here. You've landed in these seats, and so we just want to even just pause for a few moments to be family. We're going to do that in a minute, and so we're excited to be together, and we're excited to come together and to just worship Jesus and what this season is all about. And so as you came in, there was a large banner, and on the banner it had one word on it, and that word is wonder. And I think for a lot of us, wonder can stir up a lot of thoughts. And right now I have two little kiddos at home, and we've just been driving around at night. We go and get our gingerbread lattes or whatever and bundle up in the car, probably like many of you do, and just go look at the Christmas lights. And my little son, literally every single house has lights on. Look, Dad, look. He's just caught up in it. A mom named Mary begins to be part of this story and finds herself treasuring these things up in her heart and reclaiming some of that wonder and holding on to it. And so it's in Luke 2, verse 16, and it'll be on the screens, and I want to read that. And it says, it's talking about the shepherds. It says, "So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby, who was lying there in the manger. And when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told of them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds had said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which are just as had been told them." And I want us to think just about that young teenage girl as she was there in the manger holding this little baby Jesus in her arms. And I love what it says. It says that she treasured up these things. There was something about that moment, that very pivotal moment, that she didn't want to lose. She wanted to hold on to it. And I don't know about you, but in times of watching my son look at lights, or in other moments that we get to share, there's those moments that we want to treasure up and we want to hold on to. And tonight, as we look at God's Word, as we look at this Christmas story, I believe each of us are going to be impacted and encounter things in different ways that I believe we are going to want to treasure up and ponder in our hearts and hold on to. And so if we can do this, I know that we've had probably a full day, as I've talked about already. There's probably even more preparation after this, and family traditions and all these things. But if we could just pause for a moment. So I'd ask you to do this. Maybe just bow your heads. Close your eyes. Something we do here at Rock Harbor often is just kind of open our hands in front of us in just a posture of just kind of receiving as a way to open our hearts. I want to just pause for a moment. Maybe just consider what wonder is in your life. Or maybe even just ask God a question. What would you have for me tonight? Or maybe some of us in here, God, do you even exist? Why am I even in this seat? Would we just consider opening our lives to Him for a few moments? So Jesus, as we even just pause for a few brief seconds, Lord, would you speak tonight? Would you be the one that reignites? Would you be the one who reawakens us to this sense of wonder? But Lord, a wonder that is sustained, a wonder that is real, a wonder that leads to hope and leads to freedom. So Jesus, we love you. We say that you are good, and we invite you here tonight. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
At least as far as I can see, which is really only roughly row 3 there. So, beyond that, who knows? You know how it goes. But, without any further ado, I say to you all, each and every one, Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
What are you doing? It's far too soon to go about shouting Happy New Year. No, we need to pause. Take a breath and rest. Simply rest in this moment. And we need to listen. Because it's at Christmas we can hear clearly the sweet strains of something that pulls at our ear.
So let us be clear right from the start. Going beyond just a few mentions here and there, let us state our quite intentional intentions. Our only solo singular goal for us tonight, the point where we'll point the hint doing for all of this, is wonder.
Wonder, the quality of exciting, amazed admiration.
Wonder, rapt attention at something awesomely mysterious or new to one's experience.
Wonder, a cause of astonishment or awe.
We were made for wonder, to be under the spell of it, even if it sometimes means blundering into it.
The whole world is wide with wonder, if we're wide-eyed to see it.
And all of us seem to be quite good at being in wonder, right from the very start. At the beginning of life, that short, early part. But as we continue on, day after day, one into the next, wonder can sometimes get lost on the way.
Diminishing slowly, the process unnoticed, until it's only the treasure of children and poets. But
At Christmas time, we each hear the call. It's like receiving an invitation to be children again, like getting a ticket to a time travel vacation.
Pretty sure my ticket got lost in the mail.
Christmas is like a wide open door, through which we can again step into a world we once knew before. We hear the beck and call of it, the gentle pull of it.
At Christmas, our memories surface, reminding us of that fine childhood circus. So Christmas calls us to enter in and remember what it's like to begin, what it's like to be in wonder.
Wonder at the winter's white after a midnight snowfall. In the morning's light, it made the sight out my window something magical. The landscape was reborn like the white wool of a sheep unshorn. The rolling drifts of snow were like a sea of diamonds. The houses across the street stood out like islands. I was in wonder.
I grew up in California.
For many of us, memories like that, they only exist in our dreams. But a child's imagination is as real as it seems.
I remember the glimmer of thousands of lights brightening up the night, reflecting on the pavement and the puddles that were strung up on houses, up and down trees. They glimmered in the dark. I'd squeeze my eyes until they were almost shut. The lights would explode like stars. I was in wonder.
I remember wriggling my way right up underneath our tree, right next to the stand that held the trunk, and I'd look up through the pine-scented branches, and I'd twist my head just slightly this way and then that, and the lights would twinkle through pine needles below. I was in wonder.
I do remember. I was always in wonder at the carols that we'd sing at church, sitting on wooden pews that would creak when we'd stand with our hymnals held open before us. And together we'd begin to sing the first few lines of the chorus. Glory to the newborn King. And all the talk of angels and newborns and choirs and kings would fill my mind with shiny bright things that were like fuel to the fire of my Christmas Eve dreams. I was in wonder.
But it's not just at Christmas that children wonder. Wonder's around every corner, under every rock, on the ground, in the sky, overhead, just waiting to be seen, to be found.
Do you remember the feeling of looking not at the eyes of adults, but at mostly just a sea of knees?
Do you remember when grown-up conversations were just a buzzing above our heads?
Do you remember when life was free of pressures and demands? If you can remember, really remember, why your world can begin to expand and swell.
The time when coloring outside the lines was fine. More than fine, it was irrefutably beautiful.
And when a crayon or a finger or a brush was good, if not better, than a pencil or a pen.
We would marvel at fireworks, without a thought or a care as to how they worked. It didn't matter. We were just admiring a sky that was night turned into colorful day.
And all those long summer evenings we whiled away.
Remember when the veins on a leaf could hold us in disbelief for minutes on end? We watched little ants in single file lines like trains on their tracks. There were miniature railways and gray sidewalk cracks.
When hedges became our strong fortress walls, when enemy armies oft came to call. Here and there and everywhere. What?
most of us, it happened gradually, slowly, bit by bit, and perhaps even casually at first. As the years went by, our fingernails weren't filled with dirt anymore, but our hands were filled with other things we had to handle. And the world that was once wonderful was slowly dismantled.
The whitewashed wonder of winter wonderland is a little less wonderful with a shovel in your hand.
And some of us, maybe mistakenly, equated getting an education with ceasing to pursue the formation of wonder.
And unfortunately, it's true that some of us had wonder shook out of us. There was a moment, or a sorrow, or a fear that stopped us cold, putting on permanent hold our wonder pursuit.
Reminding us of a world that was lazy, with diamond seas, sparkling trees, and cardboard wings.
Look, we're done with playing around. Play had its day, but it's been over for a while now. We're done with wonder. It got in the way. And we brought to an end those silly games and pretend.
Or have we? Because I'd like to... We still play pretend. When we boil down the world to the way we want it to be. I don't think we've stopped pretending, no. I think we've actually gotten better at it. Because we've begun to believe in the world we pretend. It's a world without wonder.
Or maybe, just maybe, we're afraid. Afraid if we begin to look to the skies with wide open eyes, if we begin to wonder, we'll encounter a world we cannot handle. Our hands will be too full.
So we've closed the door on all the things that might start to unravel if we start to travel down the road to wonder.
Christmas is like the wedge in the door. It's the toy on the floor that we ignore. We skip over it until we trip over it.
All right then. Tonight let's have an agreement to stop pretending and possibly reinvent the way that we see the world.
For when we outgrew wonder, the world did not shrink quite as much as we think. It's quite a bit bigger than we might consider.
There are discoveries yet to be made. Some of them may be laid carefully inside our own hearts, even the fragile or hardened parts.
So let's agree to be in awe, in wonder, because there is no better time to retrace this faint line. Because Christmas is about wonder.
It's about the wonder of love that came down from above to make you a part of true wonder. Causing us to work harder, to reach further, and to succeed where stagnancy and or failure would be the alternative. Wow! Albert Einstein. Have you heard of him? He stated it more simply. He who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. So when I say that we were made for wonder, I mean it. And by wonder, I don't mean, I wonder why this, or I wonder why that. What I mean is amazement. We were made for the slack-jawed, wide-eyed, mind-blowing, goosebump-causing kind of wonder. Awe and delight. That's what I mean by wonder. And as the creation of a creator, we were made for wonder because we have one to be in wonder of: God. As we've already begun to explore, some of us have ceased to wonder, or at least that muscle is somewhat atrophied. Maybe we've chosen to shrink the world down to what we can manage, or perhaps responsibility has crowded out our capacity for bigger ideas, or maybe we've had wonder hounded out of us, or any other number of reasons. The reasons, they're not my point here. The point is that at some point, many of us cease to be in wonder. And do you remember what Albert Einstein had to say about that? But when God is our source material, our inspiration for wonder, our awe really ought to be inexhaustible. Whatever we may learn from biology, sociology, theology, or any other ology only adds to what we know about God, the origin of all of those ologies. And what we learn should give us even more reason for wonder. Because in the beginning, God created. Psalm 33 tells us that He spoke and it came to be. He commanded and it stood firm. And David in Psalm 19 tells us, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. So what we see here is that all of nature is meant to be one of our textbooks in this lifelong course of discovering the wonder of God. And that's the way the psalmist saw nature. From what they saw in the natural world all around them, they were able to make deductions about the nature of God. Psalm 93 tells us He is mightier than the breakers of the sea. And 83 tells us His anger is like a tempest. But if the natural world is one of our textbooks for the nature and the wonder of God, the psalmist never even got past the first chapter. All they had to work with at that time was their little corner of the known earth. Today, we know so much more, and enough to know that we still know very little. But I want to take you on a journey beyond our little corner of the earth and into the universe. An exploration for the furthest reaches of the heavens, and an exploration, a wonder pursuit, if you will, toward the creator of those heavens. Because together, as we take in the wonder of His creation, we might find ourselves awestruck by the Creator. So, let's start here, right here. Let's consider for a moment gravity. Simple, no? Isaac Newton had an apple fall on his head and boom, we have gravity. Come on, this was Sir Isaac Newton. They didn't go around knighting people for having apples fall on their heads. But what kind of discovery was gravity, really? Was he just the first to notice that when things are not held up, they fall down? I hope it didn't take until 1666 for humankind to wrap our minds around that one. After all, by this time, we weren't just discovering fire and chipping away at our first granite wheels. By this time, we'd already discovered the Earth's magnetic field and had measured the speed of light. We'd already invented the microscope and the telescope. And there it is. The telescope was more responsible for Newton's discovery of gravity than the apple. You see, we think of gravity as being something quite terrestrial. It's how our feet stay on the ground, and it's why we hate our bathroom scales. But gravity is bigger than Earth. Much bigger. You see, with the advent of the telescope, scientists had begun to be able to peer more deeply into the mysterious world beyond our own atmosphere. And they saw things there they just couldn't explain. Why did the moon orbit the Earth? Why did newly discovered stars and planets seem to move or disappear and then reappear in new places? Gravity wasn't an accidental discovery. It was a sophisticated search for the mechanisms of a universe of which we were just beginning to get a glimpse. The telescope was like a catapult that had rocketed our curiosity into the expanse of space, and gravity was our means of trying to answer the questions posed by this vast unknown. And when we speak of the vastness of the universe, how vast are we talking, really? Well, our moment together can't do it justice. Because how can we hope to grasp in this moment what the whole body of science has been unable to grasp, will forever be unable to grasp in the whole of its existence and mission? And yet, let us get a glimpse. A mere particle within an atom, within a molecule, within a slice of the whole bigness of the universe. We'll start with something small, like the sun. Wider than the Earth, and its core is roughly 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. On average, the sun is 93 million miles away from the Earth. And, yep, that's us. And the sun forms the center of our solar system, the whole system being latched onto the gravity of the sun and orbiting around it. Within the system, the closest planet to us, Mars, is between 34 and 249 million miles away, depending on its position in orbit. NASA tells us that with all the technology we have at our disposal right now, it would take human beings 2.5 years to get there. And let me point out, we're not even close to the warp speed we see in science fiction. That's still in the realm of dreams and theories. In fact, it's very likely that our own solar system marks the furthest reaches of the universe we will ever be able to physically explore. Ever. And even that is a massive question mark in the minds of scientists, since those kinds of excursions would require staggering leaps in technology beyond what we can hope for, much less build today. The man-made Voyager 1 is only just now nearing the point where it will leave our solar system, and it was launched from Earth on September 5th, 1977. That's right. It would take us 35 years just to reach the edge of our own solar system. We're like the toddler who stands within the picket fence surrounding his front yard, unable to venture any further. But we keep launching our kickballs and frisbees over the fence just to see what they do on the other side. We keep launching satellites and telescopes to try and peer further than we'll likely ever be able to go. And what have our kickballs and frisbees shown us? Well, let's zoom out a bit more and take a look at our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. As a child, the mention of our galaxy brought to mind images of glowing candy bars floating out in the vast darkness. Ridiculous. Or maybe not. There may be candy bars out there for all we know, because we've not even begun to see a fraction of this, our own galaxy. Our sun is but one of 200 stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Pardon me, I said 200. I meant 200 billion. Our sun is but one of 200 billion such stars in our galaxy. That would be like if I poured out 6,667 one-pound bags of sugar in this room and then asked you to count each granule one by one. The room would be 6 inches deep in sugar. And each of those 200 billion stars may be encircled by its own solar system, much like our own. We don't know. We still can't see that far. We can't see that far in our own galaxy. Zooming out a bit further, we find that our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, is but one of more than 50 galaxies that we believe make up the rather large grouping of galaxies called the local group. Local being a relative term here. Especially considering that the nearest galaxy to us is Canis Major Dwarf, which, like the Milky Way, comes with its own unique set of mental images. But Canis Major Dwarf is roughly 25,000 light years away. That means that if we were to travel at the speed of light, it would take us 25,000 years to reach our closest neighboring galaxy. The next closest grouping of galaxies to us, the Virgo cluster, is believed to contain approximately 1,300 galaxies, 26 times the number of galaxies in our own grouping. And once again, if we were to travel at the speed of light, it would take us almost 60 million years to reach the Virgo cluster, the next closest cluster of galaxies to our own. So now, as we speed out over distances we've only seen in our dreams and reruns of Star Trek episodes, which I'm confident are accurate in all respects, let's pause and take a wistful look over our shoulders. At what exactly? Before us is a field of stars and galaxies, black holes and deep space more vast than our imaginations can possibly conceive. Out here in perfect darkness, the likes of which we cannot hope to imagine, we can see what we couldn't see before, though we can't even begin to see all that there is. Our eyes, the sophisticated machinery that they are still no match for the myriad of wavelengths, light emissions, and objects all around us. Yet there, in our field of vision, is one object of light, not even all that bright, nestled innocuously among all the others. That is our galaxy group, which contains our galaxy, which contains our solar system, which contains our world, our entire world. Every mountain and ocean, every earthquake and storm, our dreams and fears, joys and heartbreaks, birthdays, funerals, family dinners, and coffee breaks are contained within that tiny pinprick of light among lights. Can you find yourself there? Can you find yourself in all that vastness? None of us can. You and I are just a part of the light that bounces the reflection of the sun back into the vast darkness of space. Pardon me if I give voice to the word that should be on the tip of our tongues, that hangs in the air like the elephant in, well, the elephant in the universe. Insignificant. And now I think we begin to see just a tiny fraction of the bigness of our God. Wonder is the profound experience of recognizing the bigness of God and the very smallness of us. It is being overwhelmed with awe, and if you'll admit to it, I wager it's just a little bit frightening. But let us press in a little more, a little deeper into wonder. Just a moment ago, I used a word that is painful to hear and almost hideous in its implications if we begin to believe it about ourselves. Insignificance. In the grand scheme of things, it would certainly seem that is what we are. Inconsequential, irrelevant, insignificant. But lest you despair, let me stoke those fires of wonder. You have a God who believes the exact opposite about you, who believes you are massively significant. He cries it from every metaphorical corner of the universe he created. He declares that you are valuable and glorious and worthwhile and wonderful. Because the God who created all this, whose ingenuity and infinite power brought all of this ever-expanding wonder into existence, believed that your existence, invisible but for a speck of light hanging in the darkness, was of such great worth that he went from all of this vastness to all of your smallness. And that is the wonder of Christmas. It's not sing-alongs and snowfalls and stockings. It's not silver bells and Santa's elves. It's an all-powerful God who became a powerless infant to tell you something about just how significant you are. It's a wide-eyed wonder at the deep, profound, and life-giving love of God.
all we can say is thank you. Thank you for what you've done for us. Thank you for sending your Son to us. May we never lose amazement, wonder at what you have done. Thank you. In your precious name. Amen. Nick said he went from all of this vastness to all of our smallness. I love that. It's a beautiful way to step into Christmas, isn't it? My name is Josh, and I'm a part of the teaching team here at Rock Harbor, and I have the pleasure tonight of getting to tell you my favorite version of the Christmas story. And essentially, it's what you've already seen. I'm not going to say anything new tonight. I'm just going to go from all of this vastness that Nick has just so beautifully shown us to all of our smallness. It's a different way to step into Christmas, isn't it? Maybe you come to a Christmas Eve service expecting all of the traditional elements of Christmas Eve. Maybe you expect a creative piece in which we have angels and shepherds and some sort of a star and wise men and incense and myrrh and all this sort of stuff. And you come and see stars and galaxies and wonder, and maybe you're thinking, that's amazing but different. It is, and that's what I love about it. What I love about it is we take the Christmas story and boil it down to the one element that really matters. See, I love the angels, and I love the shepherds, and I love the wise men, and I love the prophets, and the priests, and everything else that goes along with the stories that we generally tell at Christmas. The one we read at the beginning of this service out of the book of Luke. I love all that stuff. But we can never forget why all that stuff was there in the first place. The angels were there because Jesus had arrived. The shepherds came because Jesus was born. The wise men traveled far, long, long distances to get to Jesus. He is the center of the story. He is the point, the reason for all of this. He is Christmas. Everybody else is just extras in the story. Great, amazing, fun extras. But there is one main character in Christmas. His name is Jesus. He is the wonder of Christmas. And this reminds me of my favorite version of the Christmas story that I told you I did share with you. It's in the book of John. It's one verse. John 1:14. It goes like this. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. And we have seen his glory. The glory of the only begotten, the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. The Word became flesh. And John is doing all kinds of amazing things when he uses this word. He's pointing all the way back to creation in which God spoke the world into existence. And what he's saying here is that word that God spoke was Jesus. If you go back all the way to John 1:1, you see this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So when John says the Word became flesh, what he's saying is Jesus became flesh and lived among us. And we beheld his glory. And this is the Christmas story, isn't it? There are no angels or shepherds or babies leaping in wombs or anything else. There's simply Jesus right in front of us. See, what John has done is he's stripped away everything else from the Christmas story. All of these beautiful layers, all these things that we love and that we celebrate, and the characters that we sit on our mantle, this nativity scene. John has taken the Word, became flesh, and dwelt among us. And I love that take on Christmas, don't you? It's simply Jesus. Nothing more and nothing less, because that's all we'll ever need. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. He made his home with us. See, John is saying, you've got to see how astounding this is that Jesus came to us. That Jesus came to us, the Creator. Remember, John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In other words, the God who spoke everything into existence. Everything that we see and can't even begin to imagine in our world. God spoke with a word, and that God came to us as a baby. Do you see how amazing that is? The Creator God became a creation. He was born into the womb of a woman that he had created. Does that blow your mind? Jesus made his own mother. It's pretty wild, isn't it? Can you imagine what dinner time must have been like in that household? Jesus, eat your peas. Mom, I don't want to eat my peas. I don't like them. Jesus, they're good for you. Woman, I brought you into this world. I could just as easily take you out. The infinite God, who according to the book of Jeremiah, fills the heavens and the earth. He fills the heavens and the earth with his presence, with his glory. The infinite God, who Isaiah sees in Isaiah chapter 6, seated on a throne, exalted above the temple, and the train of his robe, just the train, just the small cape of his robe fills the temple. It fills the temple, it covers the Temple Mount. The God who is the page that the universe is drawn on, that God confined himself to a womb, to a body. It's pretty remarkable when you think about it. Don't think about it too much, it'll really mess with your head. It's amazing. The Jesus who is the standard of purity. The Bible talks over and over again in the Old Testament about how God is clean and there's no sin in his presence, and he is the standard of purity. And that Jesus, that God who is majestic in holiness and purity, comes to earth, to an earth that's anything but pure. It's dirty and filthy, physically and metaphorically. He steps into this filth, gets his feet dirty, gets his hands dirty. Amazing. Exodus says there is no one like him. Yet he's born as a baby, just like everyone else. Despite what Renaissance artists would have us believe, he probably didn't glow. He probably wasn't born with a halo. Would have been uncomfortable for Mary, I imagine. Sorry. It's late on Christmas Eve. I don't know what's coming out of my mouth. He was born as a baby that you couldn't have picked out of a baby lineup. Just an ordinary kid. We read the book of Isaiah. Isaiah says he has no form or beauty or majesty that we should be attracted to him. In other words, he probably wasn't even the cutest baby on the block. Just a normal kid. The one who Exodus describes as no one like him comes just like everybody else. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling, his home, with us. It's amazing. And the wonders of the incarnation, of Jesus coming, don't stop there. The all-powerful God for whom nothing is impossible, who speaks mountains and oceans into existence, who breathes and life happens, who scatters armies without breaking a sweat with just a flick of his wrist. That God became a powerless baby who had to be carried around from place to place by a teenage girl. It's amazing. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us, with us, as one of us. Nobody even noticed his arrival. Think about that. The one who commands the rapt, unblinking attention of angels. That right now, in this moment, angels and creatures that we can't even begin to imagine are falling on their faces in front of him and crying out, holy. That one showed up, and the only people who seemed to notice were a couple of shepherds. And they only noticed because some angels told them. The King of Kings and Lord of Lords, before whom every knee will bow in awe and fear simply at the sight of him, was turned away from every inn in Bethlehem. The one who sits on a throne, exalted above the heavens and the earth, exchanged that throne for a bed of hay. He didn't come for glory. He didn't receive a crown of gold. He received a manger. Stable. The Word became flesh, a tiny baby, and lived among us. It's astonishing when you think about it, isn't it? Absolutely mind-blowing. And what's even more astonishing is why he did it. See, Jesus came to die. He came to die. He didn't come from one throne to sit on another throne. He came from a throne to hang on a cross. He didn't exchange his crown in heaven for a crown of gold on earth. He exchanged it for a crown of thorns. He came to die for you. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And as we read on in the book of John, we find out that he came to die for you. Because he loves you. Because he loves you. Do you see it? Do you see how astonishing it is? He, everything that he is, all of the vastness that we've just seen portrayed so beautifully a few minutes ago, all of that, he made all of that, and he is far more beautiful and far more majestic and far more mysterious than all of that. He loves you. I know it's a children's song. Jesus loves me. This I know. I know that it's Christianity 101. I know that everybody in the room today has heard those words, Jesus loves you. But when's the last time you stopped to really think about what that means? See, if that hasn't absolutely blown your mind recently, if that hasn't turned your world upside down, you're not being realistic. You're not being realistic about who he is and who you are. It's mind-blowing when you think about it. He loves you. And see, the thing about it is he is being entirely realistic in his love for you. This love is not some sort of flash in the pan, in love, first date kind of love. It's entirely realistic. It knows everything there is to know about you. He knows you inside and out. He knows the things that you're afraid to admit to yourself. He knows the names that have been called to you. He knows the things that have been done to you, the things that cause you shame and guilt. He knows the walls that you hide behind. He knows all your escape mechanisms. He knows your coping mechanisms. He knows the places you run and hide from him and from everybody else. He knows the things that you've done to other people, the names you've spoken over other people, the sin and the guilt in your own life. He knows your failures. More than that, he knows all of the times you will fail in the future. See, it's not just that he knows your past and your present, he also knows your future. He sees all of the times you will sin against him and other people. Entirely realistic love. He loves you. He knows you. He loves you. He knows you. He loves you. Do you see it? It's astonishing. He loves you. Knowing everything there is to know about you. And this is not some fair weather, on again, off again kind of love. This is a relentless love. Think about what this love did for you. It came from heaven to earth. It crossed from eternity into time. It exchanged crowns and glory and power beyond our wildest imaginations for a cross, for a stable, for dirt and dust and grime, for sin and shame and all of this sort of stuff. He exchanged all of that for you. It's relentless. He comes and comes and comes to you, and we run away from him over and over again. He calls us and we run, and he calls us and we run. It's a relentless love that's pursuing you even tonight. You thought you came here on your own. He brought you here so he could tell you how much he loves you. And this is not some pie in the sky, sweet butterflies in the pit of your stomach, drive-through kind of love. It's a furious love. It sees all of the shame and guilt in your life. It sees the hopelessness and the helplessness, the despair and the desperation, the brokenness and guilt all around you. It sees all of that, and it comes to you in the middle of all of that, this love. And it's not just that it comes to you in the middle of all that, it's that he becomes that for you. He steps into the middle of your desperation. He doesn't just look on from the outside. He steps into it. He steps into your brokenness. Our sin is laid on his shoulders. He takes the punishment of our guilt. See, he doesn't just come to accept you or to tolerate you. He comes to transform you, to make you new, to make you like him, to make you like him, to make me like him. I mean, mind-blowing, isn't it? And that's the wonder of Christmas. That is the wonder of Christmas, that he loves me. He knows me, and he loves me. He sees me, and he loves me. If I saw me sitting on the side of the road the way I actually am, not the front that I'm portraying, but the way I actually am, I think I would just drive right by. Yet he crosses from heaven to earth to get to me. He's done the same for you. That's the wonder of Christmas. Jesus came for you because he loves you. That's it. Nothing more to say. I'm wondering if we can just take a moment, just a couple seconds, and just bow our heads and just reflect on this. Just be realistic with yourself and with him. Allow yourself to sit in the wonder of all of this. The wonder of all that he is and the little that he became to show you how much he loves you. Sit in the wonder of all the glory and power that he holds, that he laid down to come to you. Sit in wonder at the beauty of all that he is, that he emptied himself of to become ordinary and common. Because he loves you. Just think about that for a second. For everybody. This message is for everybody. It's for people who've heard it before. It's for people who have accepted this love before, who have accepted Christ into their hearts, who have said yes to Jesus. It's for you. Christians in the room, let's never become so comfortable with the love of God that we boil it down to a simple thing, that we take it lightly. It ought to be the thing that we cling to day in and day out. It ought to be the air that we breathe. It ought to be the very thing that we wake up for in the mornings. It's that transformative. It's that wonderful, this love. So even if you're a Christian, don't let this message just fly by you. Think of all that he is and all that he laid down to come to you. What better way to step into Christmas? I think there might be some people in the room tonight, though, who you came because that's what you're supposed to do on Christmas Eve. You don't usually come to church. Maybe somebody dragged you here tonight. Know that you're welcome here. And know that this message is for you. That it wasn't your mom or dad, your brother or sister, or a friend who dragged you to church tonight. It was Jesus. That you didn't just show up because it was the right thing to do. You showed up because he wanted you here tonight, so you could hear how much he loves you. If that's you out there, there's only one response that makes any sense when you really think about it, isn't there? Say yes. Jesus, I want to receive your love. I want to stop running and hiding. I want to stop trying to cope. Fill me with your love. Here I am. So with our heads bowed, I'm just going to pray a prayer. It's a prayer for all of us, Christians and people who have never accepted Christ to life. Jesus, thank you that you came for us. You can just pray this with me. Jesus, thank you that you came for us. Thank you that you love us. Thank you that you love me. I want to receive your love. I want to live in your love.
more moments in this service together. Can we worship? And worship, these are just some prayers. They're just ways that we can commune with God, that we can receive His love and give our love in return. So would you just appropriate for us to stand in awe and wonder about. But also we see in this same Christmas passage that this love, it's worth singing about. It's worth shouting about. The angels erupted into the sky singing glory to God in the highest and on earth, just let there be peace to everyone whom God's favor rests upon, and that's us tonight. And so tonight, can we just take it up one notch and move from standing in awe into erupting with praise? This is a love that changes everything. This is the love of God that never fails and never stops. This is a love that came for us to save us. And so can we not end, but can we sing a song that you should know it's called Joy to the World? And the source of our joy is simply that God has come for us. And as we sing, we're also going to have an opportunity to give back. The usher will come forward and pass baskets. And this isn't an obligation. It's nothing besides worship. As God's people, for all time, we've been people that give back to the God who gave everything for us. And so if you've come prepared to give gifts to your King tonight, would you give them as you sing? And would you bless God by celebrating Him tonight as we sing Joy to the World?
Joy to the world, the Lord
wonder that we are talking about. And so in just a minute, we are going to close this service. But if you are out there and you felt that encounter with Jesus, and maybe received that love for maybe even just the first time ever, we have a group of pastors that would love to just meet you, pray with you, and be with you in that. If you're here for any other reason, we love to just be able to pray and extend God's love to those that are here as family. And so again, we'll have our pastor teams that are up here. If you're here visiting and you're looking for a church family, you're looking for a church home for people just to simply do life with, we meet here at this campus 5 different times every weekend. But on top of that, we have 5 other campuses around Orange County in Mission Viejo, Huntington Beach, Fullerton, and Orange, and then here in Costa Mesa. And so we would love to just invite you into the family. We could not be more excited about that. And so I know there's many kids out there, and those of you that are holding these candles that cannot wait to get these lit. And so we want to do that now. Tolly's going to lead us in one last Christmas carol. And so grab your candles. And we want to just pause for a moment. And we're going to begin to light these candles. And in just a quiet, reflective posture. Just worship one last time our King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So let's do that together.
Love's pure light.